and welcome to another episode of We're Not Wizards. My name's Richard. I will be your host for this evening. Now, tonight is it's a special show, and I'm going to call it All Roads Lead to Writing Adventures. Now, I know why it's called that, and you will know why it's called that, because joining me this evening is a gentleman by the name of Stephen Rhodes. So, hello, Stephen.
Hello.
See, there you go.
I like your pun.
Just fine. No, it's we try our best. But are you well? I hope you are.
I'm great, thank you. Yeah, how are you?
Yeah, I'm very, very good. Thank you, first of all, for coming on this evening and agreeing to have a chat with us. One of the reasons I asked Stephen on the show is last year, towards I think it was the tail end of last year, Stephen appeared on the Twin Humanities podcast with friend of the show, Paddy and CJ, and when I heard him and what he had to say about, he was talking about video games and writing in video games, I was delighted to see that he was also quite involved in the kind of the RPG role-playing game scene, as well as doing a bit of tabletop himself. So I asked him, and he said yes. So thank you very much, Stephen.
My pleasure.
Now, for those who haven't listened to the show before, the reason that we do this is quite simply there are not enough podcasts about board games. I have checked, scoured Google and iTunes. Definitely none others apart from us, so there's no need for you to check. So just stay tuned and listen. Normally what we do in the show is we like to have a kind of a dig back into the past before we kind of scurry around in the present and then jump a bit forward into the future. So, Stephen, do you want to maybe tell us a little bit about kind of how you kind of got involved in maybe the hobby, the kind of the tabletop side of things yourself?
Sure. I think like most nerds of my generation, there was a few things we were exposed to, especially in the UK. Like I vividly remember going to stay at a friend's house. I think it might have been like my first sort of sleepover type thing.
Right, okay.
And my friend who I was staying at his house, he lived opposite a Games Workshop. So I was walking to his house and I was like, what are all these things in this window here? All these little cool miniatures, because I'd played Monopoly and dabbled in action figures and toys and stuff as a little kid. I think I must have been 7 or 8 at this point. And he explained to me what it was, and then he had some, and he showed me the games, and then that was it. It's like a little switch went off in my head, and it was like, that was my obsession for a long time. And then from that, I discovered, I went to the Games Workshop store to play and met friends who, a lot of those friends I still have today, and we've grown up together. And through those, we then were, I was introduced to Magic the Gathering and D&D and other miniature games, and it was just a colossal spiral from that point on.
Do you remember the first kind of good Games Workshop stuff that you got? The things that were your kind of pride and joy?
The first things I ever got were 2 Space Marines and 2 Skinks from Warhammer Fantasy. So I had models from 2 different games, and I would just make up rules for them and make them fight in my bedroom because I had a very young baby sister when I was 8. She had just been born.
Yeah.
So I wasn't allowed the miniatures in the house because my parents were really afraid of her swallowing the pieces because there were lots of tiny plastic pieces. Yeah. So I wasn't really allowed it for a couple of years. So I just had a selection of models that were just singular piece things, and I made up my own games with them because I was too young and too little to really appreciate the hobby. And then I think when I was 10, I actually started. I got armies and I went and played in the shop, and so yeah. But I had I don't have them now because I've moved several countries.
Yeah.
We're talking a couple of decades later, but I remember having 2 skinks and 2 Space Marines, which were painted awfully, and I made rules up and rolled dice, and the Space Marines and the 2 skinks fought endless wars against each other for a good while until I actually got a Space Marine army.
There never seems to be kind of like, there's either, when it comes to painting, people are either really, really good at painting, or they're really, really bad at painting. And I've seen, the ones I've done, they look like people, it looks like I've just like thrown kind of paint at them. But then I've got some mates that have started playing. They got the Bloodbowl game recently, and they were like, and like, here you go, look, I just did these, oh cool, they're not very good, and they kind of bring them out, and you're just like this. They should be in a museum. They're just beautiful.
I think it's very different now. Like, there's so many resources on the internet, and even Games Workshop, like, to their credit, produce so much hobby support now. Like, they do YouTube videos like every day about how to paint stuff, and their paint range is really easy to understand. And it's like, it's very much, if you pick it up now, it's very easy to see, like, to follow simple painting techniques to get decent results. And I think they've done really well doing that.
You used to get like copies of White Dwarf, and it used to be follow the instructions to paint this giant, and then you would have it sitting in front of you, and you'd be trying to follow the photographs, but you'd never ever quite end up with the same thing. Yeah,
because the photos they use are like heavy metal, like the professional painting team of the studio. It's like, and this is what it will look like. It's like, no, it doesn't. It doesn't look like that.
It doesn't look. It looks like I've spilled it into my dinner.
Yeah, it should say at the bottom, like, people who painted this have got 20 years painting experience.
Absolutely,
some of the best in the world.
Absolutely, it's like the first thing would say, and you start off with the wash, and then the second thing should just say, and then just give up and realize you're never going to paint a giant as well as him, because that's his job. And
paint it the flesh colour and then wash it with Devlin mud, just endless washes of Devlin mud until it looks okay, and then stop.
And then you'd paint like one spike on his club kind of white, and that would be the only thing that was white in the whole thing. For some reason, all the other spikes ended up covered in wash. So you'd have this giant kind of standing there with some kind of bone type club with one little speck of white that you were like so precious about. And look at this bit here. This is the bit I've painted really, really well. What about the rest of it? It doesn't matter. Just concentrate on the nice jagged.
Yeah, just look at this bit here.
Nice jagged.
Well, look at it from 2 meters away. If you keep it 2 meters away, it looks really good. Don't get close.
Exactly.
But it's really annoying because when I was growing up and I was like properly deep into the hobby, when I was like a teenager, I actually got quite good at painting. Like not by today's standards, but like I used to win like awards in the Games Workshops and like win painting competitions and stuff. So I felt I was getting okay. And then I stopped when I went to uni because, other stuff was around that required attention, like alcohol.
Exactly.
So
it's really,
I look back now,
really difficult.
Now that I pick up the hobby again and I'm painting again, I look back and think, God, if I'd just carried it on through like that 10 years hiatus that I took from painted models.
I know.
Like, I wonder how good I would be now. But
think about all the money you could have spent on miniatures instead of spending on beer.
Yeah.
But then, nah. You've got
all those memories I would still have.
Think of all the friends you wouldn't have. You'd be living in a house flat, kind of like surrounded by about 20 or 30,000 kind of miniatures of various stages of painting, and you'd be an absolute expert, and you'd be winning trophies, but you'd be doing it kind of just a little bit alone.
In my mum's basement.
Kind of thing. You graduated on from games. You said you were graduated on from Games Workshop. I'll get my teeth in, and you touched into Magic the Gathering, and then you headed into kind of D&D. Is that kind of your bag then? Is that what you kind of still enjoy to this day? If you have the choice between like a board game over a role playing game.
I mean, they're very different experiences. I mean, I've always been into storytelling and the narrative aspects of games. Even when I played Games Workshop, I would always have a story for my army and try and work stories into my games. So when I discovered D&D, it was like it was like the universe going, oh, this is like the culmination of all those things that you like just put together in one place. And I was like, oh my god. And yeah, when I discovered that, role playing became a big part of my life, and I did it a lot, and I did it for so many different systems, and I dabbled in all sorts of things. I still played Magic, and I still played Games Workshop games and tabletop games, but yeah, when I discovered D&D, that was really a pivotal moment in like my development as a creative individual.
What version?
It really helped. It helped like channel like what I was trying to express. It allowed me to channel it in a really focused way. So I would write campaigns for my friends, and we would play every other week. But you can't really choose. Like D&D, I always feel like D&D takes a bit of organization and logistics to create that environment. Whereas a board game, it's like people around. You might not even be planning to play board games, but it's like, oh, hey, should we just like open a board game and play? And it's like, yeah, cool, let's do that.
Yeah.
So it's a lot more. Board games are like if we compare it to a drug, board games are like the instant hit,
Okay.
whereas Dungeons and Dragons is more like the slow burn.
Okay, so any other drugs you'd like to compare it to?
No. I don't know why I went to drugs. I'm not.
Listen, I'm just listening. I'm not judging. Not even at the back of my mind.
I just wanted to pick something that people might relate to. I don't know.
Thanks, that. And there
people like drugs, right?
That's Stephen Rhodes telling you all you're a bunch of junkies.
Yeah. My opinions do not represent any of my employers.
Oh, we could put that disclaimer at the beginning. That's fine. We'll just put it. We'll put it in capitals. It's not.
That's good.
It's not a problem.
Just shout it out really loud. Warning.
Yeah, dear. So, I mean, have you played any board games kind of recently that you have kind of grabbed your attention of late?
Yeah, I don't own it, but a very good friend of mine, a colleague at work, he got the Conan board game.
All right.
And we've been playing through the scenarios in that, and it's a really, really good game.
All right, okay.
It's really, really fun. It's like it sits somewhere between a board game and a miniature game. Like it's got like it's quite a nice hybrid. It's very much in the vein of like you think of something like the Zombicide.
Yes.
Or something like that. It's very much in that vein. It fits within that kind of template. Mm-hmm. But it's a bit more tactical. Like I think the main difference is rather than the bad guys being an NPC controlled like deck of cards or what have you, it's one of the players plays the bad guys, and they have a lot of strategy to what they can activate each turn and what they can do, and they have resources to spend just like the players do. So it feels a bit more involved and a bit more invested, and it's a very good like 1v1 game because the bad guy actually has stuff to do and they have their own objectives to work against you. So it feels like a very good. That's why I feel like it's a bit more like a miniatures game than a board game.
Mm-hmm. Is it kind of like a mixture? Is it kind of like a dice involved as well? Is there kind of that level of chance?
Yeah, there's dice. Yeah, it's got like, I don't know what game did it originally, but it's got the 3 different tiers of dice. So you've got like yellow, orange, and red, and the red dice have more successes on them.
Yeah.
So I don't know what system started that whole thing, but it has that, and it works quite well.
I've seen it in Descent. It's used quite well in Descent. It's actually, I've seen it. It's used in our Star Wars Armada as well, where you get get the red, blue, and black dice. And I've also seen it used in Dungeon Saga as well. And it's you speaking about the kind of I guess the bad guys having more resources. I've seen that kind of emulated in kind of Dungeon Saga. So is it a case? Is it kind of a dungeon crawler, or is it more of like is it a bit more kind of open in kind of what you're doing?
No, it's open. It's like the board is divided up into sections, mm-hmm. and you just move around the sections. But it's more open plan. Like you get a map, mm-hmm. And there's like 4 different ones I think in the core set, and then you have objectives. And you have a starting point, and then it's like go and do the objectives, and it doesn't really give you anything other than that, and then it's up to you to work out the best strategy to do that.
All right, okay.
We got to like the fourth scenario, which was quite a quick one.
Yeah.
It's like Conan and his buddies were sneaking into a castle to kill an evil dude. I know, great narrative description there. But the names in Conan are all mental. Like they've all got the strangest names. But anyway, and we did the mission. We were doing this thing where we each did one. We each played as the good guy and the bad guy, so we both got to experience both sides of it. And we did that, and it seemed impossible for the bad guys to win. So we played it like 4 more times, just trying to work out a strategy to make the bad guys win, because we kind of felt like we had the optimal good guy strategy. Yeah. And we just kept playing it like, no, I want to see if we can actually make the bad guys win, or if this is just a really badly designed scenario. And it turns out it's just the bad guys have to get lucky at the beginning, and they have to really plan ahead, because the map is quite small, and they have to basically protect a character, and the good guys have to kill that character.
Right.
But they can get to him really quick.
And then just wipe them out, and then that's it.
Yeah.
Kind of game over.
Yeah, my strategy was run across the board with Conan, put all the dice into Conan's attack, and just explode the bad one. Because Conan hits like a truck.
I could just imagine. I mean, what are the miniature quality? What is it? Is it decent quality on the actual minis themselves?
Yeah, the sculpts are really nice, really detailed. There's a few iffy ones. It's a similar level to like Zombicide,
right?
Like the sculpts. The sculpts are nice. There's a lack of poses for the bad guys. Like the bad guys, you get a massive amount of bad guys.
Yeah.
And there's I would like a few more poses of them, but considering they're like single piece molds, the detail is incredible. It's really impressive, but yeah, I wouldn't want to paint them all. Like there was a lot of dudes in that box.
Are you not kind of tempted just to kind of take a couple away at a time and have like a pet project and just like kind of build it up over a period?
If I didn't have like 3 Blood Bowl teams and an Age of Sigmar army to paint that I still haven't done, I probably would.
Here we go. You give a guy a little bit of time, and the truth will out, as you would say.
I have so many hobbies; it's not even funny.
With Conan, that was originally a Kickstarter, and I think one of the reasons it got a bit of kind of notoriety was because I think there was a little bit of a delay on the time the funding kind of finished to the actual game being delivered. And I know there was guys that had just as soon as they got their pledge, they were kind of putting them up for sale on kind of like eBay, and it was basically, well, I've been waiting 18 months for this, and my appetite for the game is kind of gone. But it's good to hear that it's kind of worthwhile kind of waiting for. I
mean, I didn't back it or anything. I just went around to my friend's house and he had it. So my opinion on it was completely at zero.
Yeah.
Going into it, I didn't have any negative connotations with it. And I know it's also got some flack for being, it's been accused of being misogynistic or sexist, because some of the missions you're rescuing like a woman from captivity. But honestly, after playing it, and like 2 of the main characters that you can actually play as are strong female characters. So I found it a bit weird at that.
I think it's the artwork. I think the artwork itself was based around the original. I think it's the 1970s kind of comic artwork or something like that.
Yeah, it's in that Robert E. Howard style of extreme. I don't know what to call it. Extreme Conanism, where the guys all look like pro wrestlers and the women are all like scantily clad.
They've kind of they've not got enough. They've not got enough cloth to make like a small handkerchief. Basically,
I feel like if you're following someone's artistic vision of a setting, I feel like that comes with the territory. That was what his world was like.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it would be weird for me if it was tweaked like that. It's like, if you're going to make something and you're going to use the IP, I think you should use the IP. And if you want to do something different, well, don't use that IP.
Yeah. Do you think it's preferable for them to stick to the original vision of something as opposed to maybe tone something down for people who... okay, look at it this way. And this is maybe going to sound controversial, but I reckon the people who would maybe look at Conan and go, oh, that's terrible, are probably the people who maybe wouldn't buy it and enjoy it in the first place.
Yeah, there is obviously that. But, we live in, it's 2017 and people, all genders, all races want to be represented in things. So it's it's an understandable thing to bring up. I just feel like for Conan specifically, it's because if you feel so strongly about it and you want to play the game, you can there's no reason in the game where you couldn't be rescuing a male character from the same scenario. Like there's nothing really that means that it has to be the princess or like the damsel in distress. Like you could change it to suit your own desires, and I think there'd be no problem with that. And that's the beauty of board games, is that the rules are there to make you enjoy playing. They aren't set in stone. No one's going to come around and like Judge Dredd style like shoot you for like playing it differently. That is not the rules.
Absolutely, that'd be a shock, wouldn't it?
The idea of a board game Judge Dredd though does sound awesome.
Could you imagine that? It's like, nah, you're meant to do a 3 on that. It's all right, we'll do a 4, and then you just get a dump. Open the door, citizen. Oh, okay. That'll be board game Dredd at the door again. Send him away, will you?
The ultimate rules lawyer.
I don't know what punishment would be, I guess. He'd probably say, right, okay, that's you're going to do 16 cycles playing Monopoly, or guess.
I was about to say, be playing Monopoly.
If every guest goes down on Monopoly, but an episode that's going to come out, or might be out already, is I had a guy called Gary Devereaux on, and he did a quick starter recently, but him and his kind of... his partner that's involved in kind of putting the project together, he collects Monopoly stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, he's got like tons and tons of Monopoly boards. So if you said to him, he'd probably be going out and cheating just to have Judge Dredd come round and force him to do 6 cycles. You know what I mean? Am I allowed to pass go? Yep. If you get free parking, do you like to collect the money? Look at the rules. Kind of thing. But you've dropped in Bloodbowl. So how many? You said you got 3 teams on Bloodbowl?
Yeah, I bought the core box, and then I bought the Skaven.
Oh, cool.
I love Bloodbowl. It's one of my favourite games ever.
Did you buy it when? Did you have the original when it came out then?
Oh yeah. I played the original to death. I loved it. I went to like Blood Bowl events and stuff like that to play it. Because it's such an accessible game, and it's so self-contained, and the rules are just like so good. The rules are so good. It was so much fun to play. In fact, I remember when I heard the rumblings a couple of years ago that they were thinking of redoing it. My copy had been like basically destroyed. Like I played it so much the board was useless. Mm-hmm. So I was really sad. And I was like, oh, if they do redo it, I am going to buy it, and I'm going to keep it pristine so that, like, in the future, like, because now I'm at that age where I start to think about shit like this, is like, I will keep it so my kids can play Blood Bowl, because if it goes away again, I don't want to be left in the lurch. I know. So as soon as it came out, I was like, right, I'm buying it. But then I ended up moving countries, so I had to wait a few months, but then I bought it.
So did you not buy 2 then? So you've got 1 in shrink wrap?
No, I'm not quite that hardcore. But well, I mean, it seems that I'm looking at the sort of success of it and the number of products they're pumping out for it. I don't think it's going away.
No, it's not going in. No, it's kind of going. It's kind of going.
So that's good.
Have you got a regular group that you play with then, through work and stuff like that you play Blood Bowl? Yeah,
actually, it was very strange moving to another country, and especially one where the main language is not English. I was struggling to sort of find people and places to do all this nerdy stuff with. I was like, oh, people here either are more respectable adults or they keep it very well hidden. Mm-hmm. And then I bought it anyway because I wanted it, and I was like, screw this, I don't care if I can't find any people. And then I think in the space of about 2 weeks, I found out that there's a game shop 10 minutes from my apartment, like a new game shop that has like boards where they do tournaments. And also that there's a league at work, but because, I work for Ubisoft and the studio is like 400 people. Yeah. So that's too many people to know everything about what people are doing. But there was this entire Blood Bowl league with like 20 players that I just had no idea existed in the building with me. And then someone just casually dropped it into conversation, and I just was like,
"What?
Just stop, go back, and tell me exactly what you just said again." And yeah, so I joined the league at work, and we play at lunchtimes, and it's super fun.
Is that kind of like, do you almost kind of like sneak something to eat just before official lunchtime so you can get more time actually playing, or do you snack on the go as you're playing?
No, I generally, I mean, I sort of take all my food to work with me, so I do like meal prep at home. So I just sort of throw it in the microwave and eat it as I play.
That's pretty good. So 20 players. So is it quite a serious contest? I mean, has there been fallings out? I mean,
no. I mean, it's quite serious. Like, it's a proper league, and they have it's like done in placings, and then there's a playoff at the end of each season. And some of the guys I think probably take it a bit too seriously.
Yeah.
But it's all in good fun, and everyone enjoys it, and it's a good fun game, and it's you can do like a half in a lunchtime, which is nice.
That's pretty good.
So it's a very good like work-based social game, I think.
See, one of the things we like to do at We're Not Wizards is we like board games to be kind of accessible as kind of possible, and there will be people that will be stumbling across us that haven't kind of they've heard of Bloodbowl, but they haven't kind of played it before. So the idea behind Bloodbowl, it's kind of like a fantasy kind of American football type kind of type game. I mean, do you want to give us a 5-minute rundown of why it's so good, why it's so great, why it's so fun, and why is it so easy to play, just for the guys at home?
It's easy to play because you get everything in the box. Mm-hmm. So if you buy, you can treat it like a board game. If you buy that core box, you've got 2 teams, the board, everything you need, and you can play it, and you don't ever need anything else. Mm-hmm. The rules are very easy to learn. It's very, very intuitive system. There's very basic core mechanics that then are slightly built upon, which I think are very easy to pick up. It's very fun in that you can cheat intentionally, and it's part of the game. Like you have rerolls, and you can like foul, and you can do sly things, which I think is great fun. I think a lot of people like relate to it because it's based loosely on a sport that exists, so you can apply some of that like knowledge to it.
Yeah.
Like I hate sports pretty much. Like I'm not a sports person, but I love Bloodbowl. Yeah. So go figure. So it's got much broader appeal than a lot of other board games. And it's just great fun. It's the perfect like have people around, have a few beers kind of game. Everyone it's fun to watch as much as it is fun to play. And you can knock out a game in like an hour and a bit if you know what you're doing, and all the teams for it play slightly differently, but not to the point where it will feel unfamiliar if you picked a new team. And there's like even Games Workshop are doing official teams now, but there's like, because it was abandoned for so long, there's whole companies out there that make really good quality third-party teams that you can buy for really cheap. And as far as the miniature games go, it's probably one of the cheapest in existence, because you need like 11 dudes and then that's it.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's as far as like if you're looking at getting into a miniatures game, it's so cheap to play Blood Bowl because you get your team and then that's it, you're done. So
what's your favorite? What's your kind of favorite team? What kind of guys are you running with at the moment?
Well, I'm playing Skaven right now because I hate myself and everyone else.
Why?
But only because Dark Elves don't exist yet as an official team. Okay. But Dark Elves are my team.
Right. Okay. So what's so
much to the vitriol of everyone I play because they're horrible to pin down and they murder players.
What's so bad about them? Why are they so bad?
Well, they're elves, so they dodge just all the time.
Yeah.
So, like, trying to tackle them and trying to stop them running the ball just through your defensive line is really tough.
Yeah.
And their, like, special thing is they have poison blades.
Oh, right, okay.
So they're, like, prone to just murdering your players and taking them off the pitch. So, yeah, I like them. I like them for the elf side of things because they're fast and agile and they dance around and they give you a lot of options in terms of plays, but I like the Dark Elf side of things because, well, I used to play Dark Elves in Warhammer.
Yeah.
But also because they have that little edge of being a bit ruthless and a bit brutal.
So until they come out, you've got the Skaven that you're running with at the moment. Where are you in the league? Is there a league going on just now at work?
Yeah, so we've just finished the current season, and then we're taking like a week or two off, and then the new season will start again. I came into the last season. I didn't know about it until too late, so I wasn't in the last season.
Oh, right, okay.
But I played a few like just friendly games just to like, you know.
That's what I was going to ask. Where did you place in the league? But I guess we'll have to. You'll have to keep us informed of where you finish up in the kind of the next season.
If it's anything like how I used to play, what will happen is I'll do relatively well for most of the season, and then as soon as it comes to playoff season, my like star player will just catastrophically get his head kicked off, and then my team will do nothing for the rest of the. Like, I'll just get knocked out of the playoffs instantly.
I take it if you lose a player on the field, is it it's not permadeath, but I take it that's them off for the rest of the match then.
So that's the cool thing about Blood Bowl is if you play it in like a league format.
Yeah.
Your team like gains experience and players gain new skills and new stats and stuff as the season goes on.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you get injured on the field, you roll on like a damage table, and usually the majority of times the players are going to just go off for a game or go off just for a half.
Yeah.
But there is a slim chance that your player could sustain an injury, and there is a chance that the injury could result in death.
So that's it. He's gone.
I've literally played like 10, 12 game leagues and then lost a player.
Oh my goodness!
At the very end, and like he'll have had loads of skills and loads of abilities and have been amazing, and then just some stupid little like it'll be a nothing character like a skink or a goblin will just stab him and he'll just fall over dead.
just as he's running past. Here you go.
Yeah, he won't even be attacked. He'll just trip up. He'll trip himself up, like trying to catch the ball and kill himself.
He'll do.
I've seen that happen.
What do they call that? Doing a Messi.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Did you ever manage to play the was it the Blood Bowl manager kind of card game at all? Did you ever kind of?
I did actually. Yeah, the Fantasy Flight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I really liked that game.
Yeah. Did you? You still got? Did you get a set of that yourself, or was that something you kind of played with?
No, that was another game that I played at someone's house.
Ah, cool. Okay. So you've mentioned you mentioned work. You mentioned Ubisoft, because one of the things that maybe people aren't aware of is that your career to date has been involved. You've done a lot of, you've done a lot of creative work, a lot of creative writing, narrative work to do with the kind of the video games kind of industry. The one of the games that probably people will know very, very well are kind of like the Witcher 3, because you said you were in Poland for a while working with them, yeah?
Yep. I worked in Poland for like 18 months on Witcher 3.
Okay. And what kind of stuff were you doing at CD Projekt Red? And were you doing like the main stories, the side quests? What was your kind of involvement in it, or was it a bit of everything?
So I was a quest designer at CDP, and I worked primarily on side quests and what we called like the living world content, which was narrative experiences and quests around the world that didn't necessarily start in the traditional sense of here's a guy, he gives you a task, go and do the task. So yeah, I focused mainly on those things, mainly because when I joined the company, the main story had pretty much all been finalized and sort of dished out. So like I helped on little bits just sort of towards the end, like, polishing and bug fixing and whatnot, but my like creative content was more in populating the world with interesting like little stories and side quests that would sort of distract you from the main game and take you on little adventures. Is
it quite cool when people kind of recount to you kind of like tales that they've been doing or things they've been up to in Witcher 3 and it turns out it's something that you've done?
Yeah, I mean, it's always satisfying as a creative to see people enjoy the stuff that you make. no matter what it is. I really like it. But yeah, I did enjoy watching people. So in the prologue area, White Orchard, there was this little sort of churchyard, like a graveyard of a little church that you could go into, that went down into like a crypt, and it was guarded by a wraith, and the wraith would appear to you outside and was very high level for the starting area. So you could fight them if you want, but halfway through the fight, the wraith would vanish.
Yeah.
So most players thought, I must have killed it or scared it away.
Yeah.
And then they'd wander down into the crypt to sort of see what was there and loot stuff. And as you wandered in, the door shuts behind you and won't let you out, and then the wraith appears again and just goes to town on you. So the amount of players I watched on streams who would walk down there, and then the lights would go out and the door would close, and then the wraith would appear, and it's the same wraith they were fighting, but because it caught them off guard, they just weren't prepared, and it would just murder them, and it was super fun to watch.
So you got, like, if you look into your YouTube history, is it just tons of these videos in your history, just seeing the wraith could have killed people off and say, "Yep, there's another one. There's another one."
Yeah, there's probably a few, but I was quite happy with that wraith.
Yeah. You've been also Lego City Undercover.
Yes, back in what
day.
feels like a lifetime ago.
I know, but as we spoke about in the green room, it's coming back.
It is, yeah. I'm super excited to see that it's finally going to get its heyday on PS4 and Xbox One.
And for people who have been living in a hole for the last little while, Lego City kind of Undercover it came out on the Wii U, and it had its own story, its own narrative. What was it about for folk that kind of haven't heard about it before?
So it's a blend of loads of different things. It's mainly like a buddy cop movie, I guess, in terms of its sort of narrative structure. It follows the story of Chase McCain, who's like this really cool cop who joins the Lego City Police Department, and he's got like a nemesis who's Rex Fury, and he sort of has to stop his nefarious plans from coming to fruition. And he's got like a bumbling sidekick who's really funny. But it's basically, like, if I had to sum it up for a modern gaming audience, it's basically Lego City is like Lego GTA.
Really?
Which, it's probably not how the people at TT want it marketed, but I don't work for them anymore, so it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's basically like, it's a big city, you can drive around, you can like jump into cars, you can drive around, and rather than the GTA model of like being cruel and doing what you want, this is more you can drive around and help people and save people, and Chase has loads of different costumes that give him different powers, much like every other Lego game. It follows the same template, but it's just it was like the first real open world Lego game, and what I really liked about it was that the story and the IP was done in house, and it was unique to us. Like, we didn't, it wasn't based on like a movie or another game or anything like that. It was a purely creative endeavor that the team created from scratch, from our own imaginations, and that's why I think it's always going to be like my favorite Lego game because of that. Yeah,
I mean, you talk about it with a lot of passion on the Twin Humanities episode that you did with CJ and Paddy. So if you're interested in that and finding out more about that, I would suggest you jump on and give that a listen, because it's one of the reasons why I asked Stephen on the podcast in the first place, and it's a damn kind of good listen. You've also been involved in the writings, is it for Homefront Revolution?
That's right, yep.
Which, and what were you involved in that? Was that kind of the story side of things? What did you do there?
Yeah, I was a narrative designer there, so I was a writer essentially.
All right, okay.
But again, it's when I joined the project, a lot of the story was already set in stone, so there wasn't a great deal of room for changes when I joined. We changed some stuff, and we definitely improved on what was there when I got there compared to the finished article. But a lot of my sort of creative time there went on to sort of trying to polish up the script that we had, and also working on the narrative for the DLC.
Okay.
Like the 3 big DLCs that we did there.
Okay. I mean, obviously, sticking within. I mean, one of the reasons I got you on was to speak about kind of role playing games as well. But you're also working on another kind of game at the moment. Yeah, was it 7?
Yeah, 7: The Days Long Gone, which is a indie title. It's my first indie title that I've been writing for a studio called Fool's Theory, which is based in Bielsko in Poland, which is a group of ex-CDP devs who I used to work with, friends of mine who left CDP and formed their own studio to sort of pursue their own creative visions, and they asked me to write their first game for them, which is 7, which is coming out this year. I don't think the date's been announced yet, so I won't say it just in case.
Exactly, give us an exclusive kind of accident.
Kuba would kill me. He would fly to Canada and murder me.
He'd probably be like that. I'd be listening to this board game podcast, and all of a sudden you appeared and you dropped us right in it with a date. Thanks very much.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm it's finishing up now, and I'm super proud of the game and the story especially, and got a shout out to my fellow writer on that, Tom, who I brought him onto the project to help me out with the writing, and it was his first game.
Oh, right.
It's not even his first indie game, so it's his first foray into the industry, and he's done super good work, and I'm super proud of the work that we've done together as a team, and I'm excited for that game to come out and see what people think. They've just had it at PAX, actually.
Yeah.
Demoed at PAX East, so I haven't heard back any specific feedback, but I've heard that it was received quite positively, so that's good.
Pretty good. So was that was that a project where you weren't coming in kind of halfway through or towards the end, that were you kind of constructing the narrative from the very beginning with the ideas and stuff like that?
Yep, yeah, I worked on that from pretty much the very beginning. I think there was like a month or two before I started where they sort of settled down and got themselves sorted. But yeah, I was on it from the beginning, and me and the team sort of hashed out the world building and the narrative arc, and talked about what we wanted and the themes, and it was really good creative experience to sort of do that brainstorming and really get everyone's creative juices flowing and really sort of experiment with where we wanted to go and what we do. And then, no idea is perfect first time, and there's been many iterations and many tweaks and changes as the game's gone on and development's progressed. But I think it's in a really good place now, and I read back through the work, and I play I don't play it because I don't have a PC, but I look at the builds and watch videos of gameplay, and it's come together really nice, and I'm really excited to see what people think about the directions that we took with it and our particular take on the subjects that it deals with.
Has your narrative affect how they've put together the game kind of mechanically? I mean, did the two things kind of work off each other, that you maybe have to look at changing how the story is going based on the restrictions of the game, or are you able to say, well, maybe if the character's able to do this, is there a way we can bring that kind of to life? Is there a kind of a bit of back and forward that way?
I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a game at the end of the day, and gameplay comes first. It's people play a game to play a game. They don't play a game to watch a movie. Yeah. So I always feel like the gameplay is the priority, and yeah, I had to adjust the narrative based on what the gameplay was going to focus on. But then at the same time, we did, a lot of the mechanics and a lot of the gameplay was influenced by the narrative we wanted and the direction that we took with it. Mm-hmm. So, in any kind of creative field, it's always a collaboration. There's always, you've got to be flexible, and there's give or take on both sides, and narrative have to adhere to design, and design have to adhere to narrative in a sort of symbiotic relationship.
Have you learned kind of lessons from yourself kind of being involved in a project and having kind of, I guess, a lot more kind of creative control on it then?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's the first time I've ever really led a narrative like writing project.
Yeah.
You know, like I was the lead writer on it, so there was a lot of decision making, and which I really, you know, I found challenging, but I found it rewarding as well to be able to steer the vision. Obviously, the final say of everything landed with the creative director, so I still had, you know, it wasn't like I was just going off on my own opinions and stuff like a dictator, like a writing dictator. But it was nice to have a lot of creative control, and I really enjoyed the process. And you know, there were some things that were changed that if it was just me working on it or it was just my thing, I wouldn't have changed. But you know, that's why I have like my D&D writing and my other stuff. It's like when you're in a team and you're working on a creative project in a collaboration with other creatives, it's not all about what you want, it's about what's best for the project. So it was always a case of stepping back and going, what would be cooler or what would be more impactful, this or this, and then we'd always try and go for the one that we felt was best for the game and the narrative, not for what we as individuals felt would be best.
Yeah. So speaking of, I mean, the RPG stuff, how many campaigns have you put together yourself now? You put together?
Oh God, I wouldn't even like to hazard a guess. Definitely in the double digits.
Did that start when you started playing D&D? Then did you do a lot of the kind of the GMing from the beginning? Were you kind of drafted in? Was it kind of like, let's get Stephen in because he always tells a good tale kind of thing?
I won't go that far.
Just bigging you up. Nah, it's not that.
Yeah, no, I think I did always gravitate towards the DMing side because I always liked telling stories.
Yeah.
I mean, I love playing it as well. Like sometimes there's nothing better than just having your character sheet and your character to think about.
Yeah.
Rather than all the plot devices and mechanical hooks and everything that you need as a DM. But I naturally gravitated towards being a GM, probably because I'm just loud and I like to talk. And I think that suits being a GM. But I think my friends were more than happy to just let me do that because it's a lot of work.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. I've heard, yeah.
And I didn't mind putting the work in, so I think it was more a case of, well, Steve's up for running it, so we'll play. And then, I had a couple of friends that also ran campaigns every so often, but I like to think that I was the one who would run the most campaigns and try and get people playing it. I was always the one saying, "Oh, let's, this new system's out. Let's play it. I'll run a thing and we'll just play it and see how it goes." And so, yeah, it's always been. I mean, it's funny because I look at my RPGs and I look at my portfolio of work, and I think the RPGs have actually got me further ahead in my life at key points than anything else I've ever done.
Yeah.
So, like when I went to my university interview, the thing that the course leader really liked was my Star Wars campaign that I took with me. It was like a giant A4 folder full of this campaign that I had run.
Yeah.
And when I went for my interview at CD Projekt, they really wanted to know about my RPG stuff, and they wanted to look at that. And they didn't care that I'd worked in the games industry for 4.5 years.
Yeah.
They just wanted to see my RPG stuff, and I think, yeah, if anything, like my RPG work has got me further ahead in my life and career than any one other thing that I think I've done.
Is it not a case of that's you kind of being let off the leash, though? I guess if you went along and says, "Well, I wrote for this, and this," that there'd be somebody maybe kind of, as you said, there's potentially always a creative director who's always having the kind of the last word. I guess you'll be constrained by the system that you're using, I guess, in D&D sometimes what you can actually do. But I guess you're kind of fully let off the leash to see kind of what your imagination can do. Do you, there's always, the big joke on kind of any role-playing game is where you start off. The tavern, do you stay away from the tavern situation, or do you embrace it? Do you have a different kind of view on how you get a group of adventurers together then?
So I love this topic. I think I wrote a blog post about it not that long ago, actually, about how I started a campaign.
Yeah, but that's why I'm bringing it up, because I was on... because I had to look at yourself. Okay.
No, it's I don't think there is a wrong way to start a campaign, and I have written so many campaigns that I think I've probably done like a good chunk of different ways and variations. But I've started people in inns. I've started people in caravans, like traveling road. I've just started people in front of a dungeon and been like, yeah, you know each other. Like, that's fine. Let's just go with it. Like, who gives a shit? Like, no one cares. Like, you're all in this room.
Exactly.
You know, you're all here because you either all know me or you work with me or something. So let's just get it out of the way and just get on to playing the adventure. But the big campaign I'm currently running, which is tentatively called Storm of Death, which I might change. I wrote this whole story about where I wanted the campaign to go and like what I wanted it to involve and the narrative themes and arcs. When I was coming to think about how it would start, I realized that the players starting as part of a convoy heading somewhere, like a caravan convoy, it just fit with the narrative. So I had no hesitation in going, right, you're all passengers on this caravan heading east for your own specific reasons. I don't need to know that. But what unifies them is then the caravan being attacked and the caravan being put under threat, and then them all having a vested interest in saving it because they're traveling with it. So that was. So I think starting a campaign, it just needs to feel natural to the campaign, or it needs to be completely just disregarded and people just be like,
yeah,
you know what, you all know each other or whatever, just deal with it and let's get stuck into the campaign. Because there's nothing worse than, like, for new GMs especially, like having to try and like get through the painful first session of getting everyone in the same place and getting them to introduce themselves to each other and then getting them to actually cooperate, because the last thing players want to do is what you tell them to do.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you say, yeah, you need to all like get together and help this town, they'll all be like, no, fuck no, I don't want to work with this guy for whatever reason. He smells weird, or he's the wrong race and I don't like their race because of my backstory. And then it's like, ugh.
Yeah, people are like, go away and they'll spend, and you don't want to give them too long with a character because they'll go away and invent some kind of angsty grudge that they'll have against somebody for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah,
I don't like him because he's got 3 vowels in his name and he's got a comma or an apostrophe. Yeah. It's like, all right, fine, then they're just, gonna get rid of him.
Yeah.
Have you ever run a campaign where you've spent a long time kind of preparing a part only to find people have found some way to kind of get round it? Either you want them to turn left and they've turned right and managed to keep going right without you kind of turning them back?
Oh yeah, absolutely, that has happened on numerous occasions. My favourite one, okay, I've got a perfect example for this. I was running a Star Wars campaign in the D20 system that Wizards did, I don't know when, a while ago.
Yeah.
It's long in the past. And we were like 3 or 4 sessions in, and it was going really well. And like I had them, I think they were on Cloud City, and I had them kept bumping into like the main Star Wars characters, but only briefly, just because I wanted it to feel cool and I wanted them to feel like they were like important in the universe.
Yeah.
And then I made this awesome royal, like Emperor's Royal Guard bad guy who was going to come and be this adversary for the players. And he was awesome, and I gave him this backstory, and I did this whole session around the build-up to him coming and like the big confrontation. And then, oh my god, one of the players, he was like, he confronted them in this hallway, and he was like, they had to go down the hallway, and he was in the way, so they had to confront him. And then one of the players is like, I'm just going to put all of my force points into, like... Oh, at first one of them threw a thermal detonator at him.
All right, okay.
And I was like, oh, he uses his staff and it bounces back down the corridor.
Uh-huh.
I thought I was being clever. And then it bounced exactly to the point equidistant from both groups and exploded and did nothing.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, that looked cool, but didn't do anything.
Yeah, cool.
And then one of the characters was like, he was like a Force adept, so he wasn't a Jedi, but he could access the Force. And he was like, I'm going to put all of my Force points into, like, basically going into, like, berserk and powering up, and he just ran at him and just cut him in half. Like, the sheer, like, amount of dice he rolled, and I can't have been much older than, like, 16 or 17 at this point, so I was still at home, so I was like, I wasn't that experienced as GM, but I was experienced enough, and I just couldn't, they're just rules, like, I just couldn't find a way around it. He just cut my character in half. So I was like, oh well, I guess that's over. I guess I'll have to think of a new bad guy.
Did you kind of go and then anyone want to go and get some dinner?
yeah, it was like, okay, cool, he's dead. I guess you can take his shuttle now. And they were like, oh, cool. I was like, oh, great.
You see me, you're raging with the Force.
Yeah.
really angry. Have you got, have you got stuff that you're working on at the moment then, that you're kind of continually, have you always got ideas for campaigns that you want to kind of put out there? Have you thought about kind of going the next step and approaching kind of like the bigger names and saying, here's my campaign, would you fancy kind of publishing it type of thing?
So this is kind of a new thing for me, the sort of professional production of role-playing supplements.
Yeah.
It's something I've had in the back burner for a number of years now, but I've been so busy hopping countries and making video games and doing other stuff that it's never been something I've really sat down and dedicated myself to. But last year I decided I was going to make a concerted effort to. So right now I'm actually working with Seventh Sphere Publishing, who are it's a guy called Brian who does the Open Legend system.
Mm-hmm.
I'm writing one of his game supplements for him. So it's called The Shores of Valhalla, and it's a Kickstarter reward for backing the Open Legend RPG system.
Oh, right, okay.
So I'm currently writing that for him, which is really exciting and really cool. And I'm also, as I mentioned earlier, my Storm of Death campaign for D&D 5th edition, I'm currently writing that up to a professional level to put on the DMs Guild, where you can buy fan-made, I don't want to say fan, but independent creators content. And I'm gonna put that up there. It's what I'm actually running for a group at work at the moment, just as they're sort of my guinea pigs for the actual mechanical stuff, to see if it's decently balanced and stuff.
Mm.
And then once I'm doing it in 4 parts, because it's a huge campaign, I've worked out it's probably a good 24 hours worth of content per block, and there's 4 blocks.
That's an adventure and a half, Stephen.
Yeah, it's a proper campaign. It's like Lord of the Rings-esque in scale. It's they go across all of Faerun, and they go to different realms, and they fight loads of different bad guys and epic things. It's basically, I wanted to write a campaign that will take players from level 1 to level 20.
Yeah.
And you can do it all in this one campaign.
Yeah.
And it gets them doing, it goes to a variety of places, it gets them doing a variety of things. There's political intrigue, there's assassinations, there's epic fights, there's broader narrative arcs going along that the players are sort of just one cog of. But the way I've built it is that it's being broken down into 4 parts, and then I'm going to put the first part up for free, where you can pay what you want for it, so people can get a taste for how I write for 5th edition.
Yeah.
And then the other parts will go up later and be costed, a couple of dollars here and a couple of dollars there.
Yeah.
And then once they're all out, I'll probably bundle them together and do a special offer to get the whole thing. But so working with Open Legend and doing this are my two initial entries into the sort of sphere of professional content creation for RPGs. But I'm hoping that it's, I'm really enjoying it, and it's really sort of, it's writing, but it doesn't feel like work. It's really fueling my creativity, and I'm really enjoying creating them. So I'm hoping that that's a sign that in the future going forward, I want to do more of that.
I'm just wondering where you get the kind of the time and also the energy to do so many things. I guess if you're saying that's it kind of ends up kind of writing itself. Have you ever got kind of through a campaign and just went, this isn't kind of cutting it, and then change a little bit, and then it's oh, this is actually now fantastic and amazing. Do you find you have to change things? Are you constantly chopping and changing? Are you quite self-critical with the stuff that you do?
Yeah, I learned a long time ago that you can't be precious about your own work when you're in a creative environment. Things get chopped and changed all the time. So I think I'm very critical of my own work, probably too much, if anything. I'll be the first person to point at something I've done and say that shit. But yeah, I think that's why it's important when you're creating content for other DMs and players, is that you run it through a group of players to test what it will be like actually in practice.
Yeah.
And I have found I'm running the first block right now with the players because it's complete. And I've got a print out of it, and I'm running it like someone who bought it would run it. So I'm reading off like my supplement and like going through it and making notes where, you know, the players inject something that I think, oh, that's quite a cool idea, or they do something that takes them off the path set.
Yeah.
But I think it's cool enough to add into the campaign.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't want to do it too much because I feel like if you keep doing that, you will literally never finish anything.
No.
And I think it's important to finish stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm injecting little ideas here and there and tweaking bits that I think that could do with more detail, or that bit isn't clear enough, or that puzzle is like too easy or too hard, or, you know, and just tweaking the nitty gritty in the actual gameplay and seeing if the story gels. And it's going really well so far, thankfully. Like, they've really enjoyed the content so far, so I'm feeling pretty positive about the first part at least. But I just want to get onto, like, you know, because obviously the first 5 levels, which is what the first block covers, they're quite low powered, so you can't really throw a decent amount at them. But later on, I've got like all sorts of crazy stuff for them to fight, so I'm super excited to do that. I just want to get there. It's like, come on, just level up faster. Stop talking to the people in the town. Just go and fight stuff.
Exactly. You go to talk to the person in the town, they ignore you.
Yeah, they ignore you and tell you to get a move on.
Get stuffed, Witcher.
Well, it's like literally one session ago they reached the town and they talked to about 15 NPCs, and I'd only written about details of 5 of them down, so I had to ad hoc 10 more NPCs and come up with like who they were and characters. And then one character decided to use talk to animals to have a conversation with a pair of horses that I then also had to ad hoc what they would say.
You have to give the horses backstories. It's like,
and I had to act how would a horse act if someone just started talking to them and they could communicate. So I had to, like, it was quite fun actually. It was probably one of the funniest moments in the whole session. But I had to just ad hoc these 2 horses like freaking out because a person was talking to them and they understood them.
Do you put on voices then? Are you kind of like, do you get really involved in the role playing type thing?
I dip in and out of it. Like, if it's a main character, I try and put on a voice, but I'm shit at voices, so it's not something I like. I'm not Matt Mercer. I can't just I can't just turn it on and turn it off like he does. But if I'm into it, and I'll try. But no, generally I do it I just do it in like my voice. So I might change the pitch based on like if they're talking to like a woman or like a gnome or something, or like a dwarf. I might change the pitch a little bit, but I'll generally just stick to my voice and try and do it in third person because. I don't want to just have to do shit voices the whole time.
Exactly. No, come over here, little boy, kind of thing. And it's just like, what? Stop it. Do you, with you being involved in the kind of the storytelling side of things, what do you do in terms of the combat then? Do you find you gravitating to have not as much combat as you would expect in a kind of a D&D campaign, or do you kind of help them go all out?
I think a healthy campaign should have an even split between like exploration, combat, and like investigation, like interactions with NPCs. And I try and keep that balance as best as I can, because I get as much joy out of like doing the puzzles and doing the interactions as much as I do the combat, but I don't like use a battle mat or anything. I do it all in the theatre of the mind, as it's known.
Okay.
Like everything is descriptive, and the players have to use their collective imagination to paint the picture. I don't like use a battle mat and miniatures and anything like that. I think it's too distracting.
Yeah. Do you get people to kind of like, well, if you can't think about it, then you'll have to think about it, basically.
No, I did say to the players, like, when we were first starting out, because I hadn't played with them before, and as a DM, I feel like it's your job to serve the players, to help to make their experience as fun as possible. So I was like, do you guys want a map? Do you want me to give you more visual aids and representations? And they were fine with it. But I've done it before. I have done maps for groups in the past that have been a bit too. They've struggled with the theatre of the mind. Ideal, and they've wanted just a map to see like the space they were in. So it's just about being adaptable. Like, I'll probably do maps for the campaign and for the key locations in case players want to use them and DMs want to use them, but I personally prefer not to use them.
Okay. Have you ever looked at things like Roll20.net at all?
Yeah, I really like Roll20. My problem is right now I don't have a PC.
Oh, right.
A computer.
All right. Okay.
I really want to do like live streaming. I really want to do like online sessions, because obviously I've got friends back home who I've got a group of friends the guys who I used to go to Games Workshop with, actually.
Yeah.
They were also my main role-playing group, so we like to get together like every year to like do a weekend of just role-playing. And they said, like, just because I'm over here in Canada doesn't mean we can't do that still. So I want to like get a computer and a camera and a microphone so I can sort of GM for them across the ocean. So it's sort of, I've got lots of other life stuff going on that's requiring my like financial resources more. But as soon as I've got like a decent amount of money set aside that isn't like allocated, I'll probably get myself a computer and invest in some Roll20 stuff.
Yeah, no, me and we're actually we're going to start going into our second session of 5th edition. It's the Mines of Philandry or something like that.
The starter set thing.
Yeah. So
Lost Mines of Phandelver.
Something like that. Yeah, I'm no good at pronouncing or reading, as it turns out. But yeah, there's me. There's myself. Actually, Patrick Smith's involved in that one. So I'm in Scotland. He's down south in Portsmouth. And then there's 3 people in America that we're playing with as well. And then there's somebody in Leeds as well. So we're all using the Roll20 system. And it's just amazing. You all log on. And then you go live. And all of a sudden you're talking to each other. And as you say, you've got a very, very basic kind of board, which you can just place your figures about, so you know roughly where you are for combat and stuff. But it's good fun, because I don't think you get as kind of embarrassed kind of putting on stupid voices and stuff like that, because while you're kind of interacting with people, you're kind of not there with them in the room, so you're not as kind of like self-conscious. At the end of the day, you're probably acting towards a wall, the worst kind of case scenario. So I mean, you've kind of got all this stuff kind of going on. I mean, is there like a dream thing that you would get involved in, the kind of the dream gig that you would love to do?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I have so many different passions and like different things I want to do, pulling me in all different directions. Like I'd love to. Don't get me wrong, I love my job and I love what I do, and I know that I'm very, very like lucky to be in the position I am to be able to write video games for a living. I'm under no illusion that that's a pretty cool thing that's not exactly common.
Yeah.
But like I would love to like, like working for Wizards as a writer for them would be very cool.
Yeah.
But I'd also love to be a script writer for Hollywood and write movies.
Yeah.
At the same, on the same hand, and I've got like 3 or 4 novels planned that I want to write that I just don't have time for. I'd love to be a more professional author. But yeah, so it's, as long as it's writing, I enjoy it and I'm passionate about it. And there's loads of different ways to be a writer now.
Yeah.
And I just think I focused on video games and D&D and like RPGs a bit more, because they were what I've grown up doing. And like I've grown up playing video games and I've grown up doing RPGs and tabletop stuff. So it's like that always felt more natural to me, and a space that I could write in and exist in without any kind of fear that I wasn't sort of qualified to do it, because I had so much experience doing it. Whereas like book writing and like film writing, I've dabbled in it and I've got scripts on the go and stuff like that, but it's a space I've never like existed in before, and I didn't go to like film school or anything. No. So I'm always a bit more apprehensive.
Yeah, I guess that when you're involved in writing and creative writing as you, it's not just a case of it's not a case of bashing out a script, because there's so much more to it. It's not a case of bashing out a screenplay or putting a book together, because as you know, there's kind of different ways of structure and stuff like that as well. But for people who want to, if they've listened tonight and they want to keep an eye on what you're doing, kind of what you're up to, where do you exist currently on the kind of the internets?
I've got a website that it's kind of a portfolio, but it's also a blog that I've been trying to sort of be disciplined with and stick to writing once a week on, and that's rhodeswrites.co.uk.
Okay.
So if you want to read articles about whatever's on my mind that particular week, You can go there, and it does vary. I've written articles about moving to Canada. I've written articles about video games. I've written articles about politics and book reviews and movies, and it's basically just a space for me to exist, to sort of dump my thoughts that are cluttered around my head.
Okay.
I'm pretty active on Twitter.
Yeah.
At Rhodes_writes, I think it is. Yeah, that's right. I'm pretty active on there, like retweeting other people's work that I've enjoyed, or retweeting things that I think people who follow me might find interesting. Or on the same note, I had a massive rant the other day about the War of the Worlds movie that Tom Cruise is in. It was like a 10-tweet rant about how I hate it and why I hate it.
Why? What's wrong with it?
Well, I love War of the Worlds. Like,
that
book is one of my favourite books of all time.
Yeah.
And I think that movie just takes a massive dump on it, because for one, it screws around with the mythos of it that doesn't need to be screwed around with, like giving them force fields and making them like the things be in the ground before. It's like, just stop, like don't do that. And also, my main problem with it is the kids in it. Like, the kid characters are so incredibly annoying and just act in the most bizarre ways.
Yeah.
Like that teenage lad, honest to God, every time I watch that film and he's on screen, I just want to punch something or anything. Just, he winds me up because he's such a shithead of a person. Like, he just doesn't, and I'm not saying that Tom Cruise in that is a good dad or anything. I think all the characters in that are pretty horrible. I actually kind of root for the Martians in that film, because I'm just like, yeah, do it, go for it.
Just
kill these people.
Collect them in the cage and just liquefy them. Just go for it.
Yeah, that's it. But that kid, he's like, when he like, the biggest sin of that film is when that kid runs up the hill and to join the fucking army, and then literally the entire hill erupts in fire. Yes. And then he's just in his mum's house at the end. And I'm like, what? How is he there?
He just turns up and he's like, all right, Dad.
Yeah, and no one says anything. His dad doesn't go, how the fuck did you survive the hill of fire? I almost died and I wasn't on it. No, he just hugs him. Him.
I think... I'm kind of glad I asked about War of the Worlds.
No, honestly, it's because I'm reading the Massacre of Mankind, which is the official sequel right now.
Okay.
Which I was very kindly sent as like an advanced reader copy. So I'm reading that right now, and I'm loving it. And I was like, God, I just fancy watching a movie about this. And I was like, I'm going to watch that movie that I'm pretty sure I hate.
Yeah.
But I've not seen it in like a couple of years, so I'm going to watch it again.
There's the entire is it Tim Robbins appears out of nowhere.
Oh God.
And then there's this kind of really, really weird bit where they end up having a fight, him and Tom Cruise, but you never see the fight.
It's because they tried to turn him into the he's like the priest in the book.
Yes.
Who like takes them in, and they're trying to do that, but in this film they made him like, he's like this crazy guy who's like, he's all about the resistance, and he starts shouting about it. And Tom Cruise is like, if you don't shut up, they're going to find us. But the guy just keeps trying to dig his weird little tunnel to somewhere.
Yeah.
And shouting about it. So, yeah. And then, they don't show the fight because at that point in the movie, they decided that they wanted to show everything from the little girl's perspective just because. So they just switched perspectives for a bit, so we don't have to see the fight.
He's just like screaming at the screen at that time, get a narrative point of view, for goodness sake, what are you doing?
Yeah, just why every character's motivation just seems to change. Like, the only consistent character in it is Tom Cruise, and his only consistency is, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, which is the correct response in that situation.
Yeah, but Tom Cruise is a bit too Tom Cruise. He
is a little bit. I just don't know why they changed it. Like, I don't know why they changed, like, the story of War of the Worlds could be modernized.
Yes.
With very few changes.
Yes.
Like, why is it not an author, like a journalist, and why is he not sort of, documenting things? And, where's Thunderchild shooting Martians in the Thames? I get that they said it in America because reasons.
Yeah.
But they could have still simulated some of the scenes from the book that were blatantly missing. And, like, the end where, like, he meets the soldier, the artilleryman, and who's trying to form, like, a new civilization underground, and that whole interesting plot device. But I don't know. I just, from the creative minds of, like, Steven Spielberg, based on, like, such an incredibly interesting intellectual property. Like, it's probably one of the first examples of like the sort of, you know, apocalypse, like disaster trope.
Yeah.
You know, like in fiction, it's like I don't know how it went wrong. So like how it went so badly wrong.
I'm just really glad we're kind of finishing off our conversation by me leaving you completely, probably quite angry again.
I do. I feel pent up again.
It's just like that, right? Are you just gonna pace about the room now? I'm quite worried for your Bloodbowl collection, and you need to stay away from things.
At least you weren't saying to me like, "Oh, I really like that film. I don't know what your points are."
I wouldn't do that because it did have several points which were quite meant to be shocking, like them waiting on the train station and the train going past on fire.
Yeah, that bit's, you know, it's like they did try, and like where it appears on the hill behind them and just does it. Oh, also, that annoyed me. They don't do the oolah thing. They make the Inception horn noise. Yeah. Like, why are they making the Inception horn noise?
I know, just an actual joke.
Well, I thought the tripods looked cool and the aliens looked cool. I thought they sort of nailed them.
Yeah,
like visually.
Yeah, they didn't go kind of all out the way to make them too kind of modern day. You mean
no? But again, the whole thing of like giving them force fields, it's like the Martians, to make them a tangible threat, they don't need to be like that. The whole point of it is that they aren't indestructible, but they're so technologically advanced and they're so much more powerful than what we have. Is that it doesn't matter? Like you know, this is the annoying bit. The only person who kills a walker in that film is Tom fucking Cruise. And he does it with a couple of grenades because he puts it up its weird sphincter thing that's trying to eat him. And I'm like, no, that's not right. Like, you know, the military could have brought down a few of them and it would not have lost anything. And it would have, you know, it shows that thing of like the humans just aren't capable of fighting this. But to make them just completely immune to everything, I thought was a bit of a cop-out. I expected Jeff Goldblum to turn up and be like, "Oh, I'll give it a cold."
Well, I was going to say that. I think that actually Independence Day is probably slightly closer to the War of the Worlds than the actual War of the Worlds film.
Yeah, do you know what? It stupidly kind of is.
Just because at the end of the day, let's give them a virus, kind of thing. But
yeah, I can't help but think like, did Jeff Goldblum did they actually just read War of the Worlds and misunderstand what happened at the end?
I have no idea. And
like, oh yeah, they gave him a cold.
The best thing about Independence Day is the fact that they managed to completely interface with an alien technology and send up kind of computer code that we don't even know is compatible with their computer code.
So do you know they tried to explain that away in the second one?
No, I've not done anything bad enough to see the second one yet.
Yeah, don't do that. But I thought it was kind of cute that they tried to address that in the second one because they basically say, because all of Earth's computer systems are based on the technology that crashed in Roswell, like that ship was what based all of our technology off, that it would synchronize with the alien tech because it's based on the same, like, loosely core thing. And I was like, huh, that's cheeky enough to work.
Do you end up watching kind of like bad films just to look at kind of like bad stories and bad screenplays and stuff like that as well? Do you like something that's as badly written as something that's really, really well written?
Yeah, I think there is something to be said about appreciating, like, to understand how to do something. I think you have to see it in its worst and then its best.
Yeah,
and I think that goes for everything. Like, I'm under no illusion that some games I've worked on haven't been like received that well.
Yeah.
But some games I have worked on have been received really well.
Yeah.
And I think I found both experiences to be equally as valuable. Like, to learn how to not do certain things is just as valuable, if not more valuable, than learning how to do things really well. So yeah, I love watching bad movies.
So what's your guilty pleasure then? Just
guilty pleasure.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
Let's finish at the worst. I mean, we're talking potentially things like Batman and Robin.
Oh man, yeah, I do like those films just for the incredible one-liners.
Yes.
I don't know, like guilty pleasure. I really like. I mean, I like Independence Day. I mean, I'm in the camp that Independence Day is actually quite a good movie with loads of interesting subtext.
Yeah.
Wrapped around a really generic disaster movie, but I don't know, guilty pleasure. I think for me, a film has to be really, really shit to be enjoyable. Like films that try to be good and fail, I don't like. But films that just don't try to be good and just try to be bad, like The Room. I love The Room.
Are you talking about things like... You're not talking about things like Sharknado?
Yeah, shit like that. Like, stuff like that. Like, what was it called? Kung Fury. I love Kung Fury.
Fury is the best 25 minutes of anything that you'll ever see in your life.
Because it's just like amazing nonsense. It's so funny.
And there's a video game as well on the PlayStation Store. I did not know that. There's a video game which I think is just the basic stuff.
Yeah, it's hard. I'm trying to think. Like, okay, I'll give you an example. Like Prometheus.
Yes.
I fucking hate Prometheus.
Right.
Because Prometheus is trying to be a good movie and just failing at it miserably in almost every regard.
Yes.
And, I know there's people out there who like it, and, that's fine. People like different things. I'm not trying to say you shouldn't like it. I'm just saying I fucking hated it. Because it just didn't do anything for me. And I'm a huge sci-fi fan, I'm a huge Ridley Scott fan, I'm a huge Alien fan, and I think if you're a combination of those three things, it was the worst film ever made of that year.
So what about Covenant then?
Yeah, I'm not interested in Covenant at all.
You're just not even going to go near there and disappoint yourself?
I mean, I'll probably go watch it just so I can be part of the conversation.
Yeah.
But, like, I'm not excited for it, I'm not enthused by it. Like, I watched the trailer and I was like, oh, it's got all the same beats as Alien, almost identically.
Yes.
Because they're just trying to... I don't know what they're trying to do. They're trying to remake Alien, but have you watched South Park recently?
No, not recently. No, I've not watched it for a little while, but...
So they've got these things called, like, I don't know where the storyline's going with it, because I've not seen the last few, but they've got these things called member berries, which are like, people are eating because they just like nostalgia, and these little berries are all about nostalgia, and they talk, and they're like, oh, hey, remember the Millennium Falcon, and remember Ghostbusters, and all these things. And I see the Alien Covenant trailer, and I'm like, that is member berries. They're just going, hey, remember facehuggers, and remember people on a ship, and an alien hunting them, and it's just like, it just looks like a film I've already seen, and I don't need to see that film again, because the version that I already have access to is really good.
Aliens,
so it's like,
Aliens versus Predator as well. That's another one.
Oh God, that.
I really don't. I think we should, we should possibly slow down or stop, because at the end of the day, I don't want you going away angry. I want you to go away saying, "This was an interesting kind of experience I got to discuss."
You're leaving a bitter taste in my mouth.
You're gonna walk away.
All those shit movies we talked
exactly. About. Oh my God, he's going to move on to Transformers next.
Oh God. What is wrong with you? Why? Why do you say these things?
I don't know. But then, I don't know, recently I caught The Smurfs. That wasn't a bad film.
The Smurfs?
Yeah.
I have not seen that.
The new live action one. It's a nice little positive story in a kind of a horribly trope-filled world.
Wow. You're not confusing it with Avatar, are you?
No.
Because they're pretty similar.
Yeah, they are, yeah. Big blue people protecting the planet. That was Fern Gully. They confused Fern Gully and Avatar. That's what it was.
I feel like I'm just shitting on like all these amazing movies.
all these films, yeah. I mean,
all these people who've made like the greatest movies of all time, and I'm just there like, nah, rubbish.
Yeah, we won't even go near the Phantom Menace.
No, God, Jesus. Is there anything left to be said about the Phantom Menace that hasn't already been said?
I don't know. I think it would be amazing if Episode 8 revealed that Jar Jar Binks was the bad guy. I know it's been a joke, but if he just turned up...
I don't know. That depends on how much Disney are willing to spend on a joke, because if they did that, they would literally lose billions.
I know, but that would be so funny if they just did that. That would be absolutely...
I mean, I would laugh. Like, I'm a Star Wars fan, but I would laugh.
Yeah.
And then cry.
I would laugh, and then I would, and then my son would know the kind of pain that we went through when we watched The Phantom Menace the first time, but that is beside...
Sad thing is, I think I was 11 when that film came out, and the 11-year-old me kind of enjoyed it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been on another podcast saying I like Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, see, that's a difficult one.
I like it.
That's fair. I mean, it's not... it is what it is. We can't change it. I mean...
Yeah.
It's got some bits of it that are okay. It's got...
I like it.
Yeah.
I don't mind it at all. And I like the next one. The Force Awakens good. And I can't wait for episode 8.
Yeah, Force Awakens I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
It really hit me in the in the nostalgia.
Yes.
But I mean, Revenge of the Sith has probably one of the most mind-blowingly visual openings of a film I think I've ever seen.
Yes.
Like that, the way they did that, I was like, God, geez, this is insane. Like, there's so much stuff on the screen. I feel like my eyes are going to melt.
That's why I loved it. Just if this was a space battle. And the only time I've seen it eclipsed recently is Rogue One, which was another fantastic space battle.
Yes.
Which
yeah,
I really liked, that space battle. That was just
So what I loved about Rogue One was that it did swarms of TIE fighters, which is exactly how TIE fighters should operate.
Yeah, exactly. That's why in the Fantasy Flight board games, you actually have a card that's called Swarm, and you have it in Armada, and you also have it in X-Wing. And what it means is that when all the TIE fighters are together, they look out for each other and they attack as one, you know? And that is a way to kind of tie it back in to cardboard.
Yeah, I did think that watching it. I was like, wow, these guys have really played X-Wing.
Absolutely. They've been playing
these guys have definitely played that game.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, it was good. I really liked that. I really liked that. Okay. Well, I guess there's only a couple of things left to do. The first thing is to thank you so very much for coming on, having a chat, and me making you angry on the way out. You know, I don't know, I actually thank you and wholeheartedly apologise for probably, you know, getting you in a nice comfortable place and then completely destroying it by mentioning bad movies for the last kind of 15-20 minutes. So, you know, but thank you very much for coming on, and as I say, we will be making sure that your website and any other links will be mentioned in the show notes, so we have kind of notes to show. There are only a couple of things left to do, and the first thing, as always, is to remember that we are many things, but we're not wizards.
We're not wizards.
We're not wizards. Are we wizards, Stephen?
I don't think so. Last time I checked, we were not wizards.
I don't think so. But you do a bit of magic with the old keyboard. I must admit.
I do try.
Yeah.
Sometimes my spells go wrong and I miscast and terrible things come out. But
you do some wrong spelling, which is just the worst pun ever.
I do a lot of wrong spelling. But yeah, no, I mean, yeah, seriously, like, thank you for having me on and for having a wonderful chat with me. It's been a lot of fun.
I've really enjoyed it. And the second thing is to say goodbye. So it is a goodbye from the fantastic Mr. Stephen Rhodes.
Thank you so much. Goodbye, everybody.
And it's a goodbye from me. Stay safe, roll sixes, and watch bad movies on occasion just for the story.
Yes, do that.
So you can learn how not to do it. And check out Stephen's stuff. Get on his blog. Follow him on Twitter, because the stuff he does is very good indeed. But until next time, goodbye.